So raising teenagers is the hardest part of the parenting journey, in my opinion. They've reached the age to where they have their own mind, and it's that the place where they really start to try to implement the things that you've taught them up through age 18. They try to apply it. They're dealing with so many different pressures and changes and hormones in middle school and high school. It's a lot. Okay, it's a tough age. Unfortunately, a lot of parents do not set a good foundation up through age 13 to make those teenage years a little bit more comfortable for the child and for the parent. So if you are one of those parents who just did not set a good tone, set a good foundation through age 13, it's likely showing itself in these teenage years. There's a lot of fighting and a lot of hate, resentment that's really showing up. And it's coming up because, again, a lot of the foundation that was set in those, prior years was just not a good one. So here are 3 ways you can look at trying to heal the relationship with the teenager. Now, I'm in no means no professional, okay? I'm just a parent, just like everybody else. But I do have some of that, what's called that ethereal knowledge. It may work, it may not. It really just depends on how open you are as a parent and how, receptive the child is. So the first thing is going to be just accepting that you probably were not the best parent up through that age of 13 years old. And this is where a lot of parents, even parents who have adult children, this is where a lot of parents really struggle. They do not want to accept the fact that they just were not decent parents, or they had a lot of challenges or a lot of shortcomings in their parenting journey up through age 13, with their children. So number one, you have to be willing to accept the fact that you failed in a lot of areas. Now, of course, it wasn't probably intentional. You were maybe immature, just didn't know, didn't have the proper guidance from people around you or from your own parents. But you have to be willing to accept that you failed. You had some shortcomings that truly affected that child's experience with you. You may also need to be willing and open to receive professional help. Because once they hit that age 13, again, they have a mind of their own. And if you've already had trouble, setting that foundation, you're probably going to need some kind of professional, unbiased assistance in repairing that relationship. A lot of times we just rely on the people around us, but they really don't be much of a better option, because a lot of times if we're relying on siblings or people around us, friends, they have the same type of mindset, which means they probably have very similar parenting styles, very similar harmful parenting styles, and they don't have a way to give you a better way to really help your child. So you really need to be open to seeking out some professional, unbiased assistance in helping you repair this relationship with your child. So number 2, you have to be willing to validate that child's experience. When they tell you what they feel you have done to them, or when they say, this is what you did, this is what you made me feel, this is what you said, you have to be willing to not only receive that, listen to that, but you have to be willing to validate it. And validation a lot of times is what was lacking in those earlier years. You didn't listen to your child, you didn't validate their feelings. When they were feeling certain ways, when they were going through certain things, you did not validate what they were feeling. So you have to now be willing to do that. If that child tells you, when you screamed at me, it hurt me so bad, you have to be willing to say, I hear you and I understand where you're coming from. You have to be willing to validate their experience of you. And a lot of times that's hard to do as well, because a lot of times we have never received that validation, so we don't know what it looks like to offer validation. So you have to be willing to validate that child's experience. So in addition to validating, you have to be really willing to sit and talk things through. A lot of times parents have that mentality that I'm big, you're little, so what you're saying is not right, and don't have an actual conversation with the child. You have to be willing to drop that mindset and have a real conversation with the child and talk it through with them, and not just be willing to respond. You need to be listening to actually have the conversation and understand where that child is coming from. And the third thing is to simply change. You want your child's behavior to change, you have to give them some change to start with. They cannot give you what you're not giving them. You have to change. You are the driver of that parent-child relationship. So if you're not changing those harmful ways, or changing those ways in which they felt abused or manipulated or unseen, unheard, if you're not willing to change your own behavior, all of it is pointless. You have to be willing to say, you know what? There are some things I need to change about me. There are some things I need to change about my perspectives. Hell, I might even need to change by going to therapy for myself and fixing some things that are wrong that are inside of me that are that's causing me, to not parent in such a healthy way. So if you're not willing to change, all of this is moot. You have to be willing to change. Do the work to start changing some of those harmful behaviors that you have so that you can better parent your child and fix that relationship with your child.